when we aren't coming from a regulated nervous system, when we're coming from a dysregulated state, we're not thinking clearly, we're not responsive, we're not able to even trust ourselves in what it is that we're saying or feeling. We claim it all to be truth, right? And we expect change outside of ourselves instead of internally.
What happens when people fully identify with their reactions?
We need to come from a calm, regulated nervous system in order for us to truly reflect, right? And so when we come from this non-reaction, this calm state, because everything is a state, and so we create from the state that we're in. And if we want to create a life where we can have, be, and do anything that we want, it needs to come from this regulated state and not dysregulation.
That people believe they are their thoughts and emotions. So can you unpack that a little bit more for us and help us to really get what you want us to, the nugget here?
You know, through all of what I teach is to try it on. And so with that, what I'm speaking is the invitation to try it on, because you'll never, affect any change within your life if you don't see how it fits for you. And so dysregulation comes from wounds and traumas. And so where do those come from, right? They come from our belief. Something we believe it's something abstract. It's something we've never challenged. It's just something we have. Like, why do you do that? Well, I don't know. My mom used to do it, right? Why do you do that? That's how they taught me in first grade. But what we know is something that someone cannot take from us. It is unshakable, right? And so what do you know about yourself versus your beliefs?
Welcome back to the Healing You Method podcast. I'm Gloria Lybecker.
And I'm Gail Donohue, and this is a space for warm, grounded conversations about healing, embodiment, relationships, and transformation.
Yeah. And today we're here with Tiffany O'Hearn. And Tiffany helps people move from reactivity into awareness by helping them understand their nervous system and to remember they are not their reactions, but the one who witnesses them. And her work brings together nervous system awareness, astrology, and conscious self-observation.
So, Tiffany, welcome. We're so glad you're here with us today.
And I am so grateful to be here. Thank you.
Good. So, to launch off and begin here, maybe you could just say a few words, what you might be noticing that people are most needing right now.
That's a great question. And I think the reality of what we're moving into is that ability to pause and be responsive to our life instead of reactive, with true authorship and sovereignty. And I think that we have lacked the ability to do so. And when we aren't coming from a regulated nervous system, when we're coming from a dysregulated state, we're not thinking clearly, we're not responsive, we're not able to even trust ourselves in what it is that we're saying or feeling. We claim it all to be truth, right? And we expect change outside of ourselves instead of internally.
Yeah. So it sounds like a truth that you want to name today is how we've been disconnected, and that if we align with a regulated nervous system, we'll be more centered and authentic with ourselves. Did I catch that right?
Yeah, definitely. You did.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So what opens up is really the way that people can really feel. So what happens when people fully identify with their reactions?
We come from a state of awareness. So for first and foremost, in order for us to do that, we need to come from a calm, regulated nervous system. In order for us to truly reflect, right? And so when we come from this non-reaction, this calm state, because everything is a state. And so we create from the state that we're in.
Mm.
And if we want to create a life where we can have, be, and do anything that we want, it needs to come from this regulated state and not dysregulation.
Yeah. Well, you bring up a really a question that I'm sort of excited to ask you about. It was kind of related to a common thought that people have, or maybe you would say misunderstanding, that people believe they are their thoughts and emotions. So can you unpack that a little bit more for us and help us to really get what you want us to, the nugget here?
Yeah, sure. And I think I really appreciate that question, right? Because, through all of what I teach is to try it on. And so with that, what I'm speaking is the invitation to try it on, because you'll never, affect any change within your life if you don't see how it fits for you. And so dysregulation comes from wounds and traumas. And so where do those come from, right? They come from our belief. They come from our beliefs that we have unintentionally, subconsciously created into our life. And they have come from our parents. They have come from our culture. They have come from our religion. They have come from when I say social media, depending on your age bracket, right? It might have just been the media, the newspaper. It came from, epigenetics, right? From our ancestors. And we will continue to create from this fearful, traumatic, wounded state, because what happens is our nervous system sees that as familiar. Mm-hmm. And so we are reacting from a state of our beliefs. But here's the thing about beliefs. I don't particularly care for that word, because in the middle is lie. And so if we really think about that,
I like that.
To me, something we believe it's something abstract. It's something we've never challenged. It's just something we have. Like, why do you do that? Well, I don't know. My mom used to do it, right? Why do you do that? That's how they taught me in first grade. But what we know is something that someone cannot take from us. It is unshakable, right? And so what do you know about yourself versus your beliefs? And I think that that's really the reality of it. And so when it comes to our thoughts, to circle back to the question is, your thoughts are created by all these beliefs from your past, from your wounds, from your traumas, from your parents, thank you very much to everybody else, right? And so these thoughts come through us like clouds in the sky. And then we go, oh yeah, they're wrong and I'm right. And so now we're going to come at each other like this, right? Yeah. Because our state is dysregulated and we can't have conversation with dysregulated people. There's no communication there, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And so go ahead. We attach to these thoughts, right? And we just assume that they are the reality, that they are right. And they're a matter of the ego. They're a matter of our nervous system trying to keep us safe. So they're reactive and it feels so real.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, when you started to say about, you just invite people to try it on. I love that phrase. And can you describe for us a little bit about what it might look like or feel like when awareness begins to come online?
Yeah. So if we think about a blue sky, right? And the clouds are our thoughts. So we have created our life based on the thoughts we attach to. So have you two ever had a thought that makes you go, ooh, that was kind of ugly. Why would I think that? It's usually about the way somebody looks, let's just say, because we are conditioned, right? Our political belief systems, they're just conditionings. We haven't challenged them, right? So somebody does something to us. I like to use the car as an example because most of us become woefully dysregulated in cars and assume that everyone in front of us should know what to do because that's what we want, right? So somebody cuts you off and you immediately think they are the biggest poopy head in the world and I'm being gentle, right? And you attach to that. And all of a sudden you're like, yeah, because they didn't see me and I'm disrespected and I'm going to show them. And you drive up next to them just to see who they are. And you're like, right? Now, if we didn't attach to that, if we just became aware of it and was like, I love you, I don't need that anymore, I'm safe. And then you just go about. And so that to me is attachment versus unattachment. Just becoming aware of the fact that you had that thought, but it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing when you say you see him come by and you just say, I love you, is so if we slowed that piece down, then that would be more about just accepting what is without attachment to it. Just
Correct.
Observing, recognizing.
Yes. And that is the most simplistic way. Everything that I'm speaking about is so easy, but it might not be simple. Or it's very simple, but it's not so easy, right? And so let's all take a moment and look into a pond and see koi fish. They're just swimming. They're just having their life. They're doing what they're doing. And so if we can see other people in that, everyone is on their own journey. We assume what's right and wrong based on our beliefs and our opinions. But is there such a thing as right? Is there such a thing as wrong? Or is there just polarities in between? And so we are suggesting, based on our ego, that something is inherently wrong or right, or we are wrong or right, mostly, right? And so if we can pause and say, oh, Gloria's coming from her own space and place of time through her own nervous system awareness, right? So is Gail, and so is Tiffany. And we're all on a journey. We are all on this big, beautiful journey. And when we can pause that, we can remind ourselves that this isn't happening to me. It is happening, but it's not to me. I am not the victim of my life. And this is where most people operate from, is that victimhood, and that someone else needs to change. We hear all the time about, people will, maybe go to a talk therapy and come back and say, okay, things need to change because this is what I talked about in therapy. And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. If you look at your life, everything that's happened in your life with compassion and love, who's the common denominator?
That's true.
And I don't like math.
Yeah.
Well, what's really unique about your work, Tiffany, is that you do this weaving together with the nervous system awareness, the astrology, and conscious self-observation. So walk us through a bit and share with us, how do those pieces work together in your approach?
So the astrology can come in. It's not something that you necessarily need, right? Because sometimes we just attach ourselves, and I have done it too. It's like this kind of toxic spirituality where we're like, okay, I need to have my chart read, then I have to have my numerology read, and then I have to have my human design, and then, oh my goodness, how am I operating from? Because this one says this and that one says that, right? Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hang on, right? We all come with energies around us. And so I infuse astrology in a way to help regulate the nervous system, to help highlight these core woundings, because in astrology, you will find your core woundings. You can find what you're here to do. And when I say what you're here to do, your dharma, it's not like I'm like, okay, Gloria, yep, okay, your sun is in Pisces, so that means you should be a healer. Okay, check, you're doing it. Like, that's not really what it's about, right? Astrology to me is whispering something to you that you already know, not believe. Right? So for instance, I'll use myself for an example. When I was a child, I told people around me that I wanted to be on Saturday Night Live. And I've always seen myself on a stage ever since I was a child, in front of an audience of people. And you know what everyone around me said? Because they're coming from their own wounds and their own beliefs and thoughts. And they said, Tiffany, that's never going to happen for you. And I was like, you know what? You're right. So fast forward, I'm learning about astrology. I look at my chart, and everything in my chart illuminates this ability for me to fulfill my dharma that I already have known since I was a child. And so did it activate something in me? Is it something that I already knew? Right? And so then it becomes permission. And that's how I see astrology. It is not something that you take and say, okay, I'm going to be on a podcast. Oh, the stars. Nope, sorry, I can't do that day. Right? Because that's we can use it in that way, but that becomes that kind of toxic spirituality, right? When we regulate our nervous system, that's the reality of it. And so, okay, Tiffany, you want to go talk and do that. Well, the reality is I cannot do that if I'm not sovereign, if I'm not authentic within myself. My message would be skewed, which is why I call myself the embodied alchemist, because I will not share something that I haven't done or practiced daily. I can't tell you to calm your nervous system when I'm like, pause, shut up, and I'm reactive.
I love your authenticity and your spontaneity, and you're just using these really practical day to day. This is how it can roll. So what I'm really gathering from what you've just shared that I really like and I resonate with strongly is that when people can begin to develop their capacity to
Yes.
actually slow down enough to get out of their head and make conscious, aware observations of their own patterns of behavior, even thoughts and emotions, they can begin to recognize things or see them. And you kind of alluded to this already about the wounding, but what are the patterns that you tend to see that people, they're often unable to see them until they can develop the ability to self-observe?
I think that if your parents are still alive, spend time with them and then you'll see. Because you will often come back, let's say, to your friend, your partner, and say, Gloria, how was the time with your parents? And you go, oh my goodness, they drive me crazy, right? And this happens with our partners and our children. Spend time with the people who are the closest to you and witness, because they are mirroring for you your wounds. When you become triggered, it is not because of them. It is showing you something unhealed in you. And if we can separate this to this, right? Because your parents, your spouse, everyone has a different opinion, but because they have their own belief systems, because they're on their own journey. And everything they believe is right or wrong is based on that. And so it's so easy for our ego to want to nudge our partners and our parents. And really, we all do this, right? If I'm like, Gloria, I know you don't. Let's just say this is the thought in my head. Oh, you think you're right? I know you don't like when I move this pencil 6 inches to the left. And so my ego goes, and I move it, right? That's not authentic, right? That's not what we want to do. When we're coming from love, we don't do things to prove or to act, right? That's why most love around us is codependent and not the essence of love. And so when we can recognize that, become aware of that want to put our shoes in the space and place of somebody else, because we know full on that it's going to trigger them and they've already triggered us. And now I want to show them how wrong they are by doing that, how dysregulated they are, right? That's a matter for the ego. And that is an invitation to pause, not with blame, shame, and guilt, with love.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. That that makes so much sense. Not with blame, shame, or guilt. And I'm hoping it's going to be okay to go here because I had a question related to love in the sense of grief, like another emotion that often is one that's difficult to be with for some people. And I believe that you had a turning point that was related to that, and you began to see clearly how patterns that you carry and how relating to ourselves, as you've been talking about, getting to know ourselves so much more. Would you be willing to share a little bit about your experience and how you clearly saw the patterns that we carry?
And it was all a matter of me journeying inward. And it was the greatest invitation for me going through last summer. I'm divorced, and just through a acrimonious divorce with a lot of contention and, a child in the middle of that. And I am a product of divorce. And so for me, I just assumed I'm not going to get divorced because I know better. haha, right?
Yeah.
It's okay. And so things, I've been divorced now almost 8 years, and our daughter is she's going to be 10 in May, and using the court systems and things like that, and not really having people hear me and what the reality is of what our daughter is experiencing. And so the judge at that point decided to, as I deem it, let's just use the unhealed term, which was punish,
Mm.
and took her away from me for a month. And it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to go through. And it was the deepest invitation to turn inward, because I created that in a sense, right? And so for me, it's how do I come back from that whole, better, with the reality as I am meant to experience that. My daughter is meant to experience that for her highest evolution. My ex is meant to experience that for their highest evolution. And nobody did it to me, to my daughter, right? And so on. And I really went on this journey. And I thought I had gone on a journey through my divorce. And then I thought I went on a journey when my father passed away. And what I've realized is they just widened that road for me. But then it narrowed, because what the common denominator in all of this is me. And so when we come from a dysregulated nervous system, it's your fault, it's them, everyone else is, jerks, and it's all happening to me. When we come from a regulated state, good, better, and best is always seeking me. And I know this is for my highest evolution. And I can sit with this for a moment and just send it so much love. I love you. I love you. I love you. And with that grief, you alchemize it. And that's how we move past traumas. That really is. It's because they're unprocessed, right? We shove them away instead of seeing them as our evolution. And I wouldn't be here talking to you on this podcast right now had that not happened to me, and all these other miracles that have happened since. And so I was bound and determined to create from this, and showing my daughter the same thing. I mean, just this morning, I'm brushing her hair and she's getting quite reactive. And her and I have a really great relationship. I've shown her this, that we repair. It's okay to come from reactivity, but how quickly can you repair? And I said, honey, I think you're kind of a little off. You may be feeling a little dysregulated. And she said, yeah, I think I am. And I said, that's okay. I said, do you have a second? She said, yeah. I said, just say this with me. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. And we kind of did that. And she ran to me and she said, I picked her up still at 10. I pick her up and we embrace, and she says, thank you, Mama. Yeah. I said, honey, you have it all within. You have it all.
Yeah, I'm going to call a pause there, because there's a lot there that you've just shared that's very tender and transformative in your life. And there's one aspect of it that, for our listeners' benefit, I want to tease it apart just a little bit more so that it's more, I don't know, just have another way of resonating with it. When you say that you got to this point where you just sent love, so there sounds like a bit of a gap for many that haven't been on this journey and haven't developed their ability to tune in that way. And just to go from the pain to, oh, I love you, there's something there that needs acknowledgement. And so let me just see if I can take a little a stab at it. For me, in my experience, it sounds very similar to your journey. I take a moment to actually slow down and acknowledge my own pain and get really honest about it and to see it clearly. In fact, just the other night, I had an experience with that through my dream life, which really is very supportive for me in my process of growth and development. And I recognized a moment in my past where a certain relationship was happening. And all of a sudden, I could see a pattern in that relationship where I could own something that I had never seen before. And so it's like, by taking the time to slow down enough to really see clearly my own actions, my own thoughts, beliefs, as you've said, the emotions that would cloud me, and to actually see that and own that, and then choose a new action, choose a new step forward that's more honoring of my own spirit. Like in that relationship, just say, no, this, I'm stepping away from this. And then to honor that, and that's bringing love back to myself. And so I guess giving a little bit more context to the love energy, the love frequency, if you will, that it's having more compassion, more self-responsibility even. I wonder if you could speak a little bit to how you frame up the love frequency with people when they inviting them that step.
Yeah, and here's the thing. We want to practice it on things that are a little easier,
Yeah.
right? We don't want to
Yeah.
practice it on something really grief, ridden, because it's going to feel really hard and it's going to feel like toxic positivity that
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
probably doesn't align,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so if we take something fairly minutia, like a comment that someone made to us that we feel ourselves kind of tense up on, and we just say, yeah, that's real. I feel that.
Mhm.
And I love you. I love you. I love you. And really just feel the sensation, because the mind wants to take us to the reason, the whys, the hows. But the reality is, it is just a sensation. And if we attach to it, we're going to create
Okay.
from it.
Okay.
And
Well, what I
so,
like what you said right there is when we can notice that it's a sensation, an emotion. So if people can slow down and actually notice in their nervous system, notice in their body the sensations and name them, that sensation will then move.
correct. But I actually don't even think you need to name it, to be honest. I don't think that we need to intellectually work with it so much as just notice it, become aware of
Notice
it.
it.
And I am the one aware that I feel this in my heart, that I feel this in my chest. Sometimes when I pay attention, I might feel it in my knee. And there's
Mm.
no wrong answer here, right?
Yeah.
You might feel it coursing through your whole body. And if you just continue to send it love, because if I say to you, Gloria, you're having a tough time right now, you might be dysregulated, right? So the first thing we're going to do is, and Gail, you do the same thing, just drop your shoulders. Oh, we're already a little tense. Soften your face.
Yeah. Yeah.
Drop your eyes. We're already feeling a little tense, right? We don't even know it, right? Because we're just so animated in this conversation. And then I say, okay, well, where do you feel it? And you say, oh, okay, I feel it, behind my heart.
Mm.
And you don't need to think about what it
Yeah.
is, where it came from, why it's there. You just send it love.
Yeah.
And in through your state, if you keep saying, I love you, you will begin to shift, because love is that highest vibrating energy. And this is not toxic positivity, but this is freedom. And
Mm.
you say, I am free. I don't thank you. Right. I love the
Mm.
Ho'oponopono in for exactly this, which is, I'm sorry, I love you, please forgive me, thank you, in no particular
Mhm.
order. But if
Mhm.
we can, I love you, I love you, I love you, and start to feel that sensation unattach, right? And
Mhm.
now we can hold it and say, listen, I appreciate you. You were here to keep me safe, but I don't need you anymore.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And if you're really into it, give it to a deity, give it to God, give it to whomever you identify with, and allow
Yeah.
them to take it from you. And
Yeah.
then when that thought comes up that keeps you in that dysregulation, you invite the love
Yeah.
again and
Okay.
again.
I
Yeah.
love that. When you're giving your heart back to yourself over and over and over again, is what it sounds like. And I appreciate you taking the time to actually bring in an experience so that people that are listening can have that experience rather than automatically going, oh, you're supposed to say, I love you. I don't get that. So they can have the experience of that and they can recognize that in themselves. That was beautiful. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah, you're so welcome. Right. And again, it's not like I'm having a bad day. I love you.
You have to take the time.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
Right.
And I really want to pause here in this moment too to reinforce what you said, Tiffany, about you start with something small and doable, and you practice it. You practice it. I've just really had that lesson taught to me again and again of how important it is to, it doesn't happen just because intellectually you get it and you understand it. You have to practice it and do it and go through the steps that Tiffany was talking about and really connect with your body and ask what's happening here and where is it here. And I love what you said too about you can't get it wrong.
No,
Yeah.
there's no getting it wrong. And imagine yourself on a beach and you have a bucket near you, right? And so right now you haven't practiced any of this work and you're highly dysregulated. It's okay. Love yourself in that because you didn't know what you know now, right?
Mm.
And then somebody, let's just say a seagull, takes your sandwich. I don't know. And you like, and then you're like, there's other food here. It didn't happen to me. I love you. I love you. I forgive you. I don't need that anymore. And then you take a scoop of shovel, you take a scoop of sand, you put it in a bucket. And then you pick up your phone and your partner texts you, what's for dinner? Oh, I'm supposed to be cooking? What about you? Where's your participation in dinner? No. Whoa, 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 whoa. We're just going to pause. They're on their own journey. I love you. I love you. I love you. I don't need you. That fear, you were there to protect me. Now we've created more space. So we're going to put another shovel in the bucket. And if you keep doing that, that's the literal space I'm speaking of. Because you will create this whole. I don't know if whole is the proper term, but let's just say you just create this space. Maybe it's rocks and you're just moving it out of the way to tend to your own garden. That's probably a better one. And so now you've created space, and from space, we have access to our intuition. We have access to our imagination. We have access to our creativity. We have access to our boundaries, to our authorship, to our sovereignty. We have access to all of that because we are creating more space. With dysregulation, there is no space. We cannot receive more because we will continue to snap back into fear and something that is not ours. And so with this love, with this practice, and there's also something, because the reality is this is how traumas and wounds shift, because we've sent them love, because you've never tried that. You've never tried that, right? Mm-hmm. And so try that on. And then the other thing is something that I've really found that's also profound for something that is a little bit harder, like the situation with my daughter. And it is, Neville Goddard talked about this, who is from the early 1900s. I've read a lot of his work, and he talks about reimagining the situation to have the outcome you desired. Right?
Yeah, that's interesting. Yes. Yeah.
And so even just your spouse texting you what's for dinner, right? And let's just say you're having a tough time and what you really wanted to see was, I would love to make you dinner, right? So you imagine that that's the text that comes across the screen, and watch how your body shifts. Watch how your sensations shift. But the reality is it's not manipulation, but it will also alter their receiving and your capacity to communicate now, because the energy has shifted.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. You're giving us such great examples of like real observations of seeing and feeling and noticing our nervous system changing. And I'm really hearing clearly from what you're sharing with us that the awareness to create space for choice is so, so important, so important. Would you have something that you'd want to say to someone directly right now who feels like, oh my gosh, I don't think I could do this, what Tiffany's talking about. And they feel that they're just so dominated and ruled by their emotions. Do you have anything you'd like to say to them?
That is so beautiful. I also just want to illuminate the fact that I wouldn't be having this conversation if it wasn't the deepest invitation from both of you. So thank you for that, in this platform, in this space. And to those that are listening, I have such compassion for you, because I've also been there in that dysregulated state. And the reality is you can do it, because you were powerful. You were so powerful. And even right now, in this tender moment of you thinking you cannot, it's okay, because your nervous system is dysregulated. And that's something you didn't know, maybe you weren't aware of. And so in this very moment, My invitation to you, if you can, close your eyes, if it's safe to do so. If not, just tell yourself, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, until you know it's complete.
Mm.
And then ask yourself that same question, because you've created space by doing that. You have created a pause. And now you have authorship over what you do next. And this is what I tell my daughter all the time. It doesn't matter what was done, the past is gone. But what you do next matters most.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And what was coming to me when you just said that piece about your daughter, what you do next matters most. And then the invitation is that you do it and you're choosing it as opposed to being controlled by the emotions or the reactions or the thoughts. You're actually pausing long enough and consciously making a choice.
Yes. And it all comes from love, because when we can invite in that compassion, we remind ourselves that Gail is on her own journey. Gloria is on her own journey. Tiffany is on her own journey. We're all coming from something different. And there's only polarities in between.
Mm.
And I don't need to show you you're right. And this is what I say all the time. If it's your truth, if it's what you know, you don't have to talk anybody into it. Right?
Yeah.
This is what I know. That's
Yeah.
it. Pause.
Yeah.
We don't have to continue on. I don't have to show you that I'm right and show you that you're wrong. You know, it's about being free. Would you rather be right, or would you rather be free?
Mm. That's so true. I love it.
That's really
The
real.
ego says right. The ego's like, let me at him, right?
Yeah.
But the soul is like, calm yourself down. It's freedom. It's always freedom.
Oh, that's so
That's
beautiful.
beautiful. Yeah. Thank you so much, Tiffany, for being here and bringing so much experiential illumination and clarity and depth to the conversation. Share with our listeners where they can learn more about you or be in touch with you.
Again, I just want to thank you from my heart, because, this came through us, all three of us collectively, and thank you for that. And as far as where I can be reached, I am all over social media. I am splattered all around. And right now, I am bound and determined to share this work in the most economical, affordable ways, so that it is not just for, people who have thousands of dollars in their pocket to heal. I'm here to show you that you have everything you need. It's not another book. It's not another course. And so I have, again, I want to be a speaker. I don't need permission from anybody, right? So I just started speaking. So I have on my YouTube channel, I've just 3 days a week, I'm committed to just coming on and speaking to exactly what we're speaking about here in all the different ways. Because my intention is to reach the people who are on the fence of things, right?
Yeah.
Not just a fence. And what I'm finding is there are women between 40, 50, 60 years old that are going, no, I don't need to hold it all together. I need to focus on myself and really learn what selfish is with a capital S. And with that, it comes from regulating our nervous system. I mean, this is the most beautiful, wonderful invitation to do so, to become aware of you, because we want to be all of these things. Oh yeah, I want to be loving. Oh, I am loving. No, you're practicing it, right? And so what you determine to be loving is also based on your experiences. And so we can shift our state, thus change our life. And if you don't believe me, just try it on. You've got nothing to lose. It hasn't worked for you.
Try it on.
It hasn't worked. I learned that back in my early 20s when I was working at CVS. I was manager of CVS, and my district manager said, Tiffany, no one's going to buy anything from a box. They need to be able to feel it and touch it and romance it. And that's where this try it on movement came from. Because if you just read a book, but you don't actually do what it's telling you to do, then it just becomes words on a page.
Yeah.
Try it on. See for yourself. Become aware once today and see how powerful that is.
That's great. I'm going to take away that phrase for sure. Just try it on. 4 words. Just try it on. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Tiffany. It was such a joy and so fun to be with you today and really learn about such important aspects for ourselves. And I really appreciate the way you help people move from, identification of their with their thoughts and their emotions into pausing and awareness, and then moving from that awareness into intentional choice. It was just such great examples to remember.
Thank you for your
Yes.
kind words.
Yes, and to everyone listening, notice what stayed with you today because you're invited to remember this, that your emotions are real, your reactions make sense, and you are not the whole, they are not the whole of who you are. There is awareness in you that can witness, breathe, and choose.
And before we have our final closing here, we want to invite you to join us for our next episode. That will be episode 335, where Gloria and I come together for a heartfelt conversation reflecting on the last three powerful episodes of the Healing You Method podcast. We'll be revisiting the wisdom and deeper themes from episode 332 with Maseret Shaw on inner listening, gratitude, and authentic living. And then we have episode 333 with Veronica Thompson on healing trauma without spiritual bypassing. And then finally, we have our episode 334 with Tiffany O'Hearn on nervous system awareness and the witness within.
Yes, we're going to be sharing what stood out to us, the common threads that we're noticing, and why these teachings matter so deeply in the healing journey. And it'll be a space for reflection, integration, and bringing these beautiful insights even more fully into everyday life. We'd love to have you join us.
And until then, take gentle care of yourself and try it on. And remember, all healing is relational.